Hello everyone, welcome to UOWD Microsoft Community Tutorial video. My name is Muhammad Niazi, and today we will discuss about the HTML tables. Overall, there are two types of tables. One is the regular HTML tables, and the other ones is named as tableless designing. So basically, we create the tables while not using the table tags. We're going to talk about the tableless designing later on, but today in this particular tutorial we will talk about the tables and its properties and how can we display the tables in many different ways. So let's start with a new tutorial. I'm going to start a new website, and I'm going to keep this as an empty website. So tables, and so we have this solution displaying here. So let's start working on it. We will add an HTML file to the solution. So we will do a right click, add new item, and HTML file. We'll name it as index.html, and now we can see the HTML code with the header and the body. So to add a table, we need to use a tag called table, and it has to be in the body, in between the bodies. So it has automatically created the ending tag for the table. Now when we look at the table structure, here's how it actually displays. So if this is a table, we have the topmost row, which is basically the header of the table of the columns, and then we have different columns. So this is a header part, and this is a column part where we have all the values. Now when we talk about the HTML code, this whole part is basically a body, okay? And if you notice, the header itself is also a row. So you need to remember this, that these itself are rows. So we'll need to define these rows separately. So let's start working on the code. So initially we will define the body, which is defined by the body tag. And here now first we need to define the header of the table, or we need to start the row. The row is defined by tr, and so this is the first row of the table. So we need to add the header tag to it. To add the header tag, we add th, which is the header of the body of the table. Sorry, my fault. And so we will define some value. For example, let's say subject. Okay. Now we will add another header in the second column. Each tag displays one column. All right, so the second column may be name, let's say, and the third column may be marks. All right, so now what this code is doing is this is showing that this is the beginning of and ending of the first row. In the first row we are mentioning the table headers, and each th tag represents one column. So in one row we have 3 columns. Okay, so that's what overall it should appear. Now let us start adding the value under the table. So after the ending row tag, we will add a new row, and in this row we will start adding the values. So to add the values, we use td as a tag, which means table data. So this first td will come under first th, or the t header. So we will display, let's say, course 1, and let's in the second td we will display Muhammad, which is a name, and in the third td we will display, let's say, marks, which is 75%. So technically we added 3 headers, and under that we added 3 data fields. So let us save it and see how it appears on the front end, on the front page. So as you may see that on the top it displays the 3 headers of the table, and under that it displays one entry or the one data row. right below it. Now one thing which you will notice that this table is starting from the top left corner, which is a default structure. So let's try to center this table, and then we will start doing other fancy things to it. So I will gonna go here, and in the table we will say align the table as center. So when we save this and we go on the page, on the home page, it will display the same table in the center of the whole page. It basically takes the whole width of the page, and based on that it calculates the center of the page. You might also have a concern that why the data is so much close to each other. So let's start to work on these width of the columns. Technically, the width by default is the width of the longest word in the whole column. So let's try to define certain width to each of these columns. To do that, initially first we will define the width to the whole table itself, and then later on we will divide that total width which we will provide to the table to each rows. So let's try to define define the width as 500 pixels. So what I have done here is added a style to this table with the attribute width, and I said that make the width of the whole table as 500 pixels. So when it will execute the code, it will come here and it will automatically generate the table of 500 pixels, and then later on it's going to start adding the text and the rest of the text to the table. So let's see what exactly happened on the page after doing this. So you may see that all the data has spaced apart, and it has basically taken all 500 pixels in the center of the page. Let's go further into it, and we will further define the width of each column. But before doing that, I would like to add the border to the table, so we can actually look at the boundaries of the table, where exactly the boundaries resides, and so to do that we will use another attribute which is called border. So I'm gonna do a border, and I can define border as first we can define, here is an example of it. So it basically the initial attribute you can pass on is how thick the value of the border is. So I'm going to put 1 pixel, okay, and it has to be solid, so because it is a solid line for me, and then I'm going to display whatever the color it should be. So let's make it green, okay. So now what I have done is display the table, display it in the center, make the width of the table as 500 pixels, and the border of the table should be 1 pixel thick, and it has to be a solid line, and it has to be in green color. So let's save this and let's see how it appears on the page. So as you may see, the whole table has now a border of 1 pixel solid line in green color. So let's move on further, and let's try also define the borders to each of these cells, so we can see where these cells reside and how the values are displayed at this place of the cell, and not in the center, etc. Okay, so to do this we will go in the headers. As we know that the length, if we define a width to the first header, it will be same as the width of the first data row, data column. Okay, so if we go here and if we define let's say style, and we say width. Now remember, our total table width is 500, so we need to divide that 500 in such a way that it gets divided among these 3 columns. So I'm gonna say, let's say my first column is 150 pixels. Okay, my second column is also 150 pixels. that makes it 300, and I will not define any width to the third column because I want the third column to take all the rest of the space which is left after defining these two values. So technically you will see 150 pixel of first 150 pixel width of first column, 150 pixel width of the second column, and 200 pixels of the third column to make up the 500 overall total width. So let us save this thing and let us see how it appears. So if you look at it, this first column, which is till here, is basically 150 pixels, and from here till here is 150 pixels, and from here till end it is 200 pixels. To modify it further, we will provide the borders to these cells as well, so we can actually see the boundaries of these cells. So let's go here, and then we're gonna define the same styles as we defined on the top. Let's define the headers first, and later on we will define the data fields as well. So if we go here and we type border, and we're gonna define as 1 pixel, we still want the solid lines, and let's display them in red color. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same to the other ones as well, and I'm gonna do the same as a third one as well. So now to the data field, what I want is that they should appear in some other color, so I'm gonna change to blue color, and let me add the same thing to the rest of the data tags. Okay, so I will save it, and let's see how it appears on the home page. So now you may see that the headers are displayed with the surrounding red color borders, and the data are surrounded by the blue color. And you may also see that it appears that the first two columns are 150 pixel in width, and the third column is 200 pixel in width. Now let's say that we have only 2 headers in this particular table, and we don't have the marks there, but we have 3 columns of data under it. So we really want to know like how it's gonna be displayed. Sometimes it happens that we have less number of top headers, and we have a couple of columns under one header. So to do this, basically the concept is, let's say that the last 2 columns should appear under the heading name. So to do this, we will add another property called column span or col span, and how many columns should it be covering. In our case, it is covering two columns. Okay, so the first column will be displaying subject as the header, and it will be displaying course 1 as the title, as the data. The second column's header will be only name, but it will have 2 different columns right under it. So let us save, and let us see how it appears on the page. So you may see that on top now it is displaying the header, which is covering 2 columns, and it is displaying 2 data under it. So this way you can manipulate and make different kind of changes to the headers. There is another tag which is called caption, and it is normally displayed right after the table tag. So this table displays marks. So the caption basically is more or less like a title to this particular table. So if we save it and we display on the page, it displays on top in the center in the column. Now You might also want to change so that you want to display these particular values in the center like the top headers. So in order to do that, we need to go in these in the properties of these data fields and then display it. So if you go there, if you go to TD and then you write align center and do the same to the other ones, it will display the, let me save it, it will display the values on the in the center of their respective columns. I hope this has given you a brief idea of how to create the tables, HTML based tables on the page, and how to make changes to each columns or the headers of it. Please try to practice this and let me know if you guys have any questions. I will explain you further in more details about this table in the next tutorial. Thank you. Bye bye.